guys hear me now? Someone please respond. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. I am sorry. All these little buttons and doodads they have over here. I tell you what we'll do. We'll just go back to the beginning. How about that? Okay. All right. Okay, so welcome to our webinar day. My name is Tom Martin. I'll be hosting this webinar. We're going to try and get Roxanne Brown from Professional Business Solutions for You on. She's attended these before in the past. I think, unfortunately, I may not have put her down as a panelist, and so she may not be attending. I see her here as an attendee. So we'll try and get her on. Oh, here we go. Is that you, Roxanne?
Yes.
Well, thank God you're here.
A little technical glitch, everyone.
Yeah, my apologies. When I sent out the invitations for this webinar, I inadvertently forgot to put Roxanne on, so she didn't get a panelist access code. All right, so Roxanne, I'm glad you're here. Welcome.
Thanks. Thanks.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. Okay, so essentially, if you want to ask any questions, use the questions tab to submit questions or communicate problems. Which, by the way, Roxanne, you did very well, communicated your particular problem, so it does work. We will conduct a Q&A at the end of the webinar. If you're using audio through GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar, for best results, close email, messenger, or any program which uses a lot of bandwidth. Today's presentation is being recorded. I will show you again where we're going to put that. Okay, well, that's Communiqué for Seller Central. Let's go back to Google. Here you go. So let's go back to our home page. Let's see. Just come out to Altarian.com, go to Communiqué for Amazon Seller Central. Under here, webinars is where today's recording is going to be posted. We've already done part 1. Today is part 2. So we should have that up probably by tomorrow. Okay. Let me minimize that, and let's go back to our slides. So let's talk about data. We're trying to use as much real-world data as possible, so the data that's in here is representative of what you might see. But since we do so much testing with data and data manipulation, some stuff may not quite make sense. That's okay. I mean, it's representative, but it's not exact. So move on to the next tab, today's agenda. Communiqué for Amazon Seller Central is what we're going to be discussing. We'll look at the various different sections like dashboards, settlements, reconciliation, accounting, summary, and implications, and so on and so forth. What I want to say before I turn this over to Rox is that we do sell on Amazon. Tojin Photo, T-O-J-I-N, Photo is our company name. We have skin in the game just like you, and we use our own product to help manage our Amazon business. So basically, your problems are our problems. If you have issues with Communiqué for Seller Central, then we're having issues. So that's a real motivation for us to get those things fixed and rectified and even enhanced and make things better for all of us. So basically, when Communiqué does not work for you, it does not work for us. And so like I said, we have skin in the game, and we're highly motivated to make this product a success. So at this point, I'd like to turn this over to Rox. Rox, if you would.
All right. Hey, Tom. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Sorry about that little glitch there in the beginning. So my name is Roxanne Brown of Professional Business Solutions for You, LLC. Basically, I've been a bookkeeper forever and a day. Just kind of goes back good 25 years, 28 years just with the e-commerce. I go back to the beginning of time with this. So a very long time. And I've been a certified QuickBooks Pro advisor since the inception of the program in '99. Basically, you know, I work with so many different e-commerce people, and over the last couple years in particular, the amount of merchants that are selling on Amazon has steadily increased. The last 2 years in particular, it's really gone up, and FBA being a big part of that in the last 18 months or so. The problem for most of the clients that I've worked with is they don't have a good handle on what their real profit margin is on those products. You know, they think they've increased their volume of sales, and if you look at their financials, they've gone from, you know, they might have doubled, tripled, quadrupled the amount of sales that they do in a year. But I'll hear, you know, I'm not making any money. You know, why can't I pay the bills, or why can't I take extra paychecks, or, you know, whatever. And so you really need to understand what's happening. It's not just the volume of sales that you're doing, but it's also, you know, what is your real profit margin on those? one of the things that we found with using this program in particular when Tom developed it was several people have a lot of lost leaders up on the FBA side. You know, it's fine on their website, it's fine on regular merchant fulfilled Amazon, but in FBA, they became lost leaders. And it might be a product that they were selling a lot of. So they didn't even realize that, you know. But now when they can look at the fees, all the different fees that come into play, they're realizing that they're losing anywhere from a couple cents to a couple dollars on every order. And if you're selling, you know, 100 of those widgets a day, it doesn't take long to eat into your overall profit margin. So this tool kind of came about with the need for being able to see what's selling, what's the trends, what's the real profit margin, how do I know what fees are being charged to me and why, because the statements are almost impossible to read, you know, manually. And how do I know I'm getting paid for everything, you know, by Amazon? Because mistakes, I mean, they definitely do happen. And then with FBA, like I said, there's a whole lot of other things that come into play, like we'll talk about here in a little bit. If you know, maybe have somebody that ordered 5 widgets and it ended up shipping from 5 different warehouses. And so now when you're getting paid by Amazon, it could cross over 3 different payouts. You know, so that gets really confusing trying to figure out when, where, what, and why. So, you know, this tool is going to make it a lot easier. You'll be able to reconcile everything, find your discrepancies, contact Amazon if needed, and then more importantly, see your trends, see what your real profit margin is so you can make adjustments accordingly. So this is my happy dance here. And it doesn't matter what, you know, order importer or order manager or accounting software that you're using. I mean, it just flat out doesn't matter. This is going to give you all the relevant information you need for the Amazon side of things. So with all that being said, Tom, I'm going to turn it over to you to get into all the goodies.
Okay, good. Thank you, Rox. Appreciate that background information. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with a little introduction here. All right, so for those of you who have either a current license for this or have used Communiqué for Stone Edge or Communiqué for Mom, you're familiar with the dashboard. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you a quick overview of some things. We do have some more in-depth videos and webinars already posted, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here. But when you first start up Communiqué for Seller Central, you get the dashboard. And in the dashboard, you have sales at a glance for a particular period. You have your refunds or adjustments here. And I make a distinction here when I say refunds or adjustments is because, you know, technically you can't download the refunds file from Amazon. What you do get are the adjustments from your settlements, and that's what is used here to show for refunds. So if you have a 2-week time delay between time, you know, of settlements, then, you know, these refunds and adjustments are going to be about 2 weeks behind. There's really not much we can do about it now. It's just the refunds file itself is just not available for download. So you get the refunds dashboard here. Shipping summary shows you orders and packages and units. Down here, fulfillment. This particular day that we're looking at is merchant fulfilled only, no FBA, so we won't be able to see any of that. But had there been FBA orders here, we would be looking at the number of orders for FBA and merchant. The other is basically a non-Amazon fulfillment. So for those of you who sell in other markets and use FBA to fill some of your orders, that's what this other would be. These tabs over here show you buyer metrics. For example, repeat versus new buyers, and then average order value, product flow, your settlements. So all the settlements that you import are listed here, and it kind of gives you an overview of the peaks and valleys. Ship dailies, we don't have any here. Since this is a merchant fulfilled file, essentially you'd have to import your shipping and tracking file. If you're doing FBA, FBA does supply shipping and tracking information. So had we been importing FBA data here, we would see shipping and tracking information automatically. And as far as the shipping and tracking info goes, I will show you in a few minutes some things you can do to help get that stuff into Communiqué. All right, ship flow, again, that requires shipping and tracking info. Look at top buyers, top products, top suppliers, and your workflow. So the dashboard pretty much gives you at your fingertips a variety of different information that you can look at to be able to kind of get a pulse of what's going on with your business. And, you know, that in a nutshell is essentially what Communiqué is all about: sales analysis, metrics, data mining, business intelligence, that sort of thing. So a few extra sections we want to take a look at. We have a buyer section that helps you to do a little bit of slicing and dicing, segmenting and market segmentation. Obviously, you're not allowed to market to the customers directly, but this does give you a way to be able to understand who your customers are, what they're buying, and where they're coming from. The geo section deals with geographic areas, so if you're looking at regions, states, international sales, Canadian sales, that sort of thing, this would be the section that you would go to. Here are your orders, and these are your products, a list of all your suppliers, and we have a dedicated FBA section, meaning that these FBA reports are very similar to the products report, but these automatically filter out for FBA sales only, so you're dealing specifically with FBA without being concerned with are there any merchant or non-Amazon fulfillments in here. And in the very last section here, which is one of the important sections, is your settlements. And essentially, this is the area you would go to import your settlement files and look at your settlements and things of that nature. So let's move on to some of the things that new things that we have here. All right, before we go into our product file, let me talk about the StoneEdge integration. We do have the ability to be able to sync some data. For those of you StoneEdge customers, we do have a data sync here to help import and update your product file, purchase orders, shipping, and suppliers. So for those StoneEdge merchants, if you wish to bring in your tracking records that you have in your database, this is the way that you can actually do that. Now, the only tracking record, the only products, and the only purchase orders and suppliers that are brought in here are those that are related to your FBA sales. So if you have products that are non-FBA or merchant fulfill or Amazon, then those are not imported. Purchase orders, again, those are only related to the SKUs you have in here, and the shipping records are only related to the orders that are in here. Now, from here, we can go over to look at the product section and the product explorer. And let's, well, I'll tell you what, we'll just pull them all up. We made some tremendous enhancements here. We have this data view and image support, and I'll get into that just a little bit more. But let me show you a couple things that we've added. One is the ability to be able to import your FBA fulfilled inventory file and your merchant active listings. These are two reports that are available on Amazon, and you can actually import the inventory that you have for sale out there through this. Now, once you import these, then subsequent imports will either add one that's products that are missing, or two, it'll update the quantity information or any other edits you might have made. Another improvement here is that we have an import data dialog, so you can take a CSV or tab limited file and import product information. Again, if the SKU is missing, it adds it. The only requirement is that you have to have at least a SKU. All the other fields are optional. If you already have the SKU here, then it'll update your product file. So this actually is a real good way to be able to import product information you might have in a inventory database elsewhere. So we can just come over here, let's see, grab a product file. And so by grabbing a product file, it has mapped the headers to the correct fields. And for those that are missing, all you have to do is come up here and just tell it which one it belongs to. So you can use the recommended headers that we have, or you can use your own and then just map them here. Once you do that, you just click on Process, and it will update your product file. Okay, so let's move on to some more information and improvements that we've done with the product section. We've actually done quite a bit of work for this version. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select a different database, and for those of you who did not know, you can actually have more than one database, and that is actually a benefit if you have more than one store. Essentially, if you're doing a store, you have access to your merchant fulfilled, your FBA, you can do Amazon Canada and a few of the markets like that. I mean, those would all be included in a single database. But if you actually have two different stores, they would have to be in different databases. So let's go over to a new database that we have here, open that up. There's no sales data here, but we want to look at our product data. So I'm going to browse, and here you go. This is the image support that we were talking about. So when it comes to image support, what we recommend is a file or an image size no bigger than 250 by 250 pixels and it needs to be a JPEG. JPEGs are the best file format for images like this. It's the most compressed, and it has the best quality and detail as compared to PNGs, bitmaps, and GIFs. Okay, so let's go and look at our product detail. We've added quite a bit of stuff here this time around, and let's see. Okay, so we have added the UPC, and we've also added the ability to be able to do merchant listing, so that you can determine whether or not this item is listed as a merchant fulfilled or this item is listed as an FBA fulfilled. Plus we put weight in units, and we also included estimated ship costs and estimated fees. And in addition to that, and I'll get back to this in a moment, in addition to that, for the FBA side, we added FBA price and FBA cost. And the reason why we did this is because it's possible to have an FBA or an item listed on merchant fulfilled and FBA, and they have different costs and different selling prices. Amazon does allow you to charge more for an FBA item than a merchant fulfilled. You know, example might be when you're figuring out, filling in your cost. This is the cost that, you know, is to your warehouse, but you may find that you might want to adjust the cost to FBA because it costs you a little extra to ship it there. We also include the ability to be able to put in estimated ship costs and estimated fees. So putting that there can give you a margin of what you can expect to make when you sell this. Now, in the case with the FBA, you may not put or need to put an estimated ship cost, but you can transpose that and say, well, that's the estimated ship cost from our warehouse to them, or to their warehouse, or the estimated ship cost from my supplier to them. So you can actually put that in here, estimate what your fees are going to be, and that would give you what your margin or margin percent should be. So as you can see, quite a bit of stuff has been done here to help improve the management of your product and to get a better understanding of what kind of margins and fees and things like that you can expect. A couple of things that we've added in, key product features and search terms. These are two things that are prevalent when you're listing items. Obviously, you need to put the product features. Those are the 5 bullet items you see. And then the search terms that you use so that when someone is looking for your product, they will type these terms in, and hopefully your product comes up near the top. Okay, so what else we got? Okay, yeah. So what I want to show you now is a new view type that we put in, card view. So we're looking at data view now, so we go look at card view. There you go. So this gives you a way of being able to see a nice picture of your product and at the same time being able to look at product information here. Pretty slick, huh? Okay, so we've talked about, something you want to add, Rox?
I said that's a great ooh-ah moment. You know,
okay.
See that? I was going to say,
well, you know,
customer service people too. Anybody that's taking, you know, fielding calls or, you know, inquiries to the web or whatever. It's a really quick way to go for them to look something up, you know, and for you to do your search engine optimization even with those keywords, kind of tweak things from there. And also, if you guys are repricing, you're setting your floors, how low you want to go. This will really help there, not lose money like we were talking about a little earlier with, you know, loss leaders.
Okay. It's a nice little feature to have, you know, so you can see your products, nice big picture, and you can switch back to data view, and now you can see more information, as you can see. So now the next thing I want to show you is a nice little feature we added in. It's called the Find panel. So from here, essentially what you would do is you would just type in some text, and what it will do is it will search your grid and find every reference in every cell for the text that you typed in. So this makes it really flexible because, you know, normally if you're filtering by a particular column or set of columns, and in order to do something like this, the filter would just be too unwieldy. So the Find panel will help you find references to text or numbers anywhere in your grid. So if we were to come here and say, well, give me a list of all of those with 8, now we found 190. So if we come back and do 59, what do we get? 101. So by typing in any series of values, whatever the case may be, The find panel attempts to look at all the values in all the cells in the grid that's displayed here and return back those results. So it's a quick, easy way to be able to find things in the grid. And that's a new feature we have coming out in this next version.
That's worth its weight in gold. You know, for people that are used to using QuickBooks or find in Excel, you know, Excel forms or PDFs, this is a great tool. It saves a lot of time. So a lot of times you remember a little piece of something that you're looking for, but, you know, maybe not the exact string of text. Or, you know, you need several things to pop up there at once without trying to scan down. Having it highlighted and filtered like that is really nice.
Okay, yeah, that's exactly right. I've already found it very useful too, because I mean, a lot of times you might know a partial, like for example, a SKU. You know, I mean, if I were to go, you know, do something like this, which I mean, you can do this in the search dialog. I'll show you. So this all starts a particular line of products, ACC. All right. I mean, you can actually do the same thing too in a search, but what you would have to do is do this, for example. So you have to tell it to look for a partial match, which the find panel already does that automatically. So we get the same result here. It's just that the find panel is faster. Plus, it looks in every single cell. So as you notice, I put in the SKU ACC, but it did not look in the name, the ASIN, the barcode, anywhere else. So that's really the power of the find panel, is that it will look at every single cell to see anything that matches that particular string or number you put in there. Okay, so the next thing we want to go talk about is our MWS integration, Market Web Services. So right now we have our ASC, that's Amazon Seller Central Integrator for Communiqué running. This is a brand new feature we've added in. Prior to this release, essentially you've had to go out to Amazon, download the various different files and upload them. And even though the files are there and we give you full support for the upload, it is somewhat time consuming. So we've created the ASC Integrator for Communiqué, and it essentially runs 24/7, you know, 365. It goes out and pulls in your active listings, and these are the listings you currently have active on Amazon. The advantage being is that when this comes down, it will update Communiqué automatically with the relevant information. The key being here is your quantity on hand available for sale. So as soon as this thing comes down, it will update that. Now, if you notice, we have our interval set to every 90 minutes. All of these files have particular time intervals, which you can set to whatever you wish. As you can see, we're counting down here. In another 15 minutes, we're going to be downloading the active listings file. This is the FBA inventory. So for those of you selling on FBA, it'll download your FBA inventory fulfillment file and essentially do the same thing. One of the advantages to using that particular file, and I will show you, let's actually go to another database. Well, let me just show you here. We don't have this. If you're doing FBA, one of the advantages you have here is that you're looking at the quantity or amount you have at FBA. Let's get that right here. Plus you have the quantity in transit, and then you'll also understand what is reserved, unsellable, inbound, and processing. Okay, those values are available with that FBA fulfillment file. So you'll know with the quantity FBA you have X to sell, but you have another Y in transit, and because some are reserved, and what reserved basically means is that they've been allocated to orders but not shipped yet. Unsellable, damage to warehouse, damage inbound, whatever the case may be. So these values are there so you can see that, you know, even though you sent to them 100 pieces, you know, only 75 are available for sale because 10 are reserved and a couple more are inbound and a couple more are unsellable. And that data is available in the FBA inventory fulfillment file. So let's go back here and look at the next one, FBA orders. This is set to 75 minutes. It will come down, it will check to see if you have any FBA orders every 75 minutes, and then automatically processes those and enters them in to Communiqué for you. You don't have to do anything. What I will say is when you first get started, you have to understand that with this API call, there's a 30-day limit for this report, which means that you can only go back 30 days. Now, I believe you can actually go on your Amazon account and go back as far as 60 days. So if you're just starting new, what I would recommend is that you download that 60-day file and upload to Communiqué manually, and I'll show you that in a minute how you can do that. And then from that point forward, you can just use the integrator to be able to pull down the orders past that point. And the same thing is true with the orders. The interval is set to 60, but there's a 60-day limit on the API. So if you first use this, we're only able to go back 60 days. If you go out on Amazon, you can actually go up or go back to 120 days. So again, if you're starting new, I would recommend that you request that report for 120 days and then use the ASC integrator to start pulling in orders from that point forward. Okay. Settlements, again, we go out to Amazon, we look for any new settlements, and then we bring those down. We check once a day at 2 o'clock a.m., which you're free to change to whatever time range you want. Amazon does recommend that non-critical reports be run during hours that are low peak, and generally, those times in the morning are generally low peak hours. So we've tried to, accommodate that where we can. So in this case, we find the settlement report, we pull it down, we automatically start processing it, we import it into Communiqué, we start doing the auto reconciliations and everything. And essentially what winds up happening is that you come in here one day and you say, let me look at all my settlements. Okay, we're in the wrong file. Let me just go over to another one. Let's see. This one has settlements. Trying to keep track of all this. There you go. So essentially what happens is it goes out and finds a new settlement available. It brings it down here. It processes it. It does everything it needs to do. It's done automatically. You don't have to worry about it. So all you really have to do is just come in here, see that it's here, and then you can come in and say, let me run my accounting summary. I want to look at last month, or all I'm interested in is, are there any new variances or unreconciled? Because remember, when it comes in, it's automatically reconciling for them. We run that, there are none. So essentially, all the settlements matched all of the orders from Amazon, which is good. 2 thumbs up. So the ASC integrator does that automatically. And then the last one we look at here is essentially the updates. This is a file that Amazon provides. It gives you the latest updates for all the orders. So if you have a new status, it went from pending to shipped, or now you have tracking information or whatever the case may be, that all comes down in this file. And we use this to update the orders that are in Communiqué. Now, one of the things I need to mention to you is the issue of throttling. Okay, Amazon has a policy where you're allowed to make up to 15 requests for certain reports. Some reports you can do more, some reports you can do less, and you have to be careful. This is the reason why we kind of stagger this out, because if you use up your allocation, say 15, then in most instances it takes at least a minute to recover one. So basically, if you make 15 requests at one time, it'll take you 15 minutes to get back to having 15 requests again. I'm not going to get too far out in the weeds with this here because it can get a little complicated, but suffice it to say that we've staggered this in such a way where that really shouldn't be a problem. Okay? But if you come down here and you keep requesting over and over again for reports, which, by the way, I failed to mention, you can actually override this automatic stuff manually. In other words, you don't have to do an auto run. You can do a manual request. But if you keep requesting, that eats away at your limit, first off. Secondly, you have to understand that some reports, like, for example, orders, both, with merchant-fulfilled orders, a file is ready once every 15 minutes. In other words, you can't really call that report more than every 15 minutes. So if you request the report before that 15-minute threshold is over with, you get dinged for a request, and then you get back a file that says canceled. All right, the request was canceled. So you have to be very careful about doing that, and I would just say that if you leave it running in the auto mode, generally you never have to worry about that. And if you come down here and you request these things manually, which you can, just bear in mind that you have a limit to how many times you can do this, okay? Because Amazon will throttle you. And basically what winds up happening is they'll send back a report telling you it's been canceled and you will not get the request filled until you either recover back your requests or you're beyond their limit. Now, when I say limit, is that orders, for example, are considered a real-time report, so real-time reports are refreshed every 15 minutes. On the merchant side, on the FBA side, real-time reports are considered refreshed every 30 minutes, okay? And then daily reports are refreshed and available once every 4 hours, meaning that if you request a report, you have to wait at least 4 hours for a daily report to request it again. If you don't wait 4 hours, it will count against your request, and Amazon will just cancel the report or cancel the request for you. So, these are some of the complexities of dealing with the Amazon API. We try to shield you from all that with the things that we put in here. So my point to you is that if you let it run automatically, you're generally okay. If you have to come in here and do it manually and override, that's fine. Just bear in mind that there are limits, and it's possible that if you exceed those limits, Amazon will tell you, you can't get the data. Not a big deal. You just have to wait till you get past that threshold, and then you can go request it again. Okay, so essentially this is the MWS integrator and Communiqué for ASC, and so this will basically go out and grab all your data, bring it down here so you don't have to worry about getting the data yourself. All the data you need to run Communiqué is being taken care of with this integrator here. Now I did mention to you the ability to be able to import files. We did talk about the product file, and you have the Amazon reports here. Same thing is true with the orders. You have the ability to be able to import an order file, FBA file, these are order files, and your fulfillment files. Now, I showed someone the other day, you can actually have multiple files here. So let's say you have a repository somewhere with a bunch of orders. You can use this orders multi-file tool to be able to point to the correct directory, and all the order files that are in there will show up here, and it'll process them all simultaneously. And the same thing is true with settlement feeds. You have a settlement feed multi-file. Okay, so at this point, I think we've pretty much given a nice little demo of Communiqué and some of the capabilities. And let's move on to the next slide. Talk about a few extra things. Okay, so we talked about the integrator. All this stuff has been covered. We do customizations, custom programming, things like that, utilities, applets. Basically the idea here is that we've become, expert at API integration with Amazon. So if you guys are in the need of any of that, let us know. We can help you out. Roadmap. On the next release, we intend on including variations, also known as parent SKUs. So if you have a situation where, like, say, for example, you sell a particular product and it comes in a variety of sizes or colors or things of that nature, that would be a variation. So we're going to add full support for that. We're going to be adding categories and brands, batch processing and updating data, meaning that if you need to change, for example, the fee for all the items in your list, you should be able to say, okay, change fee to whatever, and it'll do them all in the list. So we'll be working on some of that batch processing so that you can update data in bulk. We're looking at adding the ability to be able to do purchase orders so that you can do your product replenishment and things of that nature, and then issue POs. And then, of course, hand in hand with POs comes supplier invoices. Further down the road, we're looking at coming out with Enterprise Edition. I mean, there's some of you that do a great deal of volume, and using an SQL server would be advantageous for you. And then possibly other marketplaces and shopping carts. That's something pushed down the road. But for those of you that sell, on areas other than Amazon, that could be an advantage to be able to have all your sales in one place, and that way you can get a better idea of what your business is doing. Right now, we're just limited to the Amazon market, which, it's quite an illumination for those of you who haven't had this kind of reporting before. But if we can expand it out to more markets, then it just makes it more useful for everybody. Okay, availability and pricing. We did say April 16th last time we talked, but we're going to have to push it to April 20th. There's a couple last-minute things that we're doing. The trial will be available. It has limited functionality, but quite frankly, once you start using it, you'll know whether or not this is going to work for you. So it's pretty obvious. So the pricing, standard license, single user, $495 plus $95 for software assurance if you want support for a year. The site license is $795 for multi-users. There's no limit to the number of users or workstations you can install, at least not as far as the license is concerned. So it's really good if you have 2 or 3 or 4 workstations. $195 for software assurance for 1 year's worth of support. I would recommend whether you buy the standard license or site license, you do get the software assurance because we are making a lot of changes, doing a lot of improvements, doing a lot of updates, and all that comes to you free for the next year. So it's well worth the software assurance. And then the enterprise licensing and pricing will be determined when it's available. Okay, so to learn more, you can contact sales@altarian.com, or you can visit our forum at communique.vbulletin.net. And for QuickBooks assistance, rocks at consultingforqb.com. This is our contact info. And now we're going to open this up to questions. All right, let's see what kind of questions we have out there. Okay. All right, so we have a question here. How would I go about loading product prep fees for hundreds of SKUs? Is there an import tool that you do have to enter them at one time? Well, you can use our, let's go back to the product section. You can use our import data. All right, so, all right, well, this is probably one of the reasons why we're waiting until April 20th. I'll have to go back and check that. But essentially, you could create yourself a product file with a SKU and then a fee, and then with the proper mapping, it tells it where to go, and you can do that in a batch mode. So if you want to do that for all of your SKUs, it's very easy to do. Okay. Will this replace the need for the Amazon Reconciliation Utility Communiqué Pro? I would say yes. There's a lot more you can do with this than you can in Communiqué Pro with the Amazon settlement reports. Please, Roxy, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, the problem with the other one, I mean, the other tool is great and all, but what we found is that Amazon puts a lot of things in that other field. So yeah, it could be product related, it could be order related, it could be shipping related, it could be just something that they're doing at the overall, batch payout level. And the order management software doesn't know all of that. It flat out doesn't know. And so, one of the things is inventory reimbursements, right? They'll have it listed as a sale, and so in that batch payout, so it's not something that you can easily identify. It's not really a sale. I mean, they're refunding you money because they lost some inventory, So you end up with a lot of false positives when you run the reconciliation. The more you get in with, well, just the more you do up there in general, and the more with FBA that you do, you wind up with more false positives. So if you're using this tool instead, it's going and looking at the orders against the settlements, directly. So you're looking at the absolute, most accurate data that you can. And then, of course, you can still use the stuff that's in the order management for some, cross-referencing and all that kind of good stuff. But this is going to give you a lot more information overall. And you can import your SKUs and your costs and all that from the software into here. So, you can get your gross margins and things like that. But it's going to be more accurate for no other reason than everything that Amazon does and throws into that other field that the other software. And it doesn't matter what order management software you're using, actually. So it's not just, any one of them. They're all the same way. They can't account for all that stuff.
Thank you, Rox. That was a good explanation. All right, so the next question is, can you provide a high-level view of the purpose of the tool? Is it to track the number of orders and determine the profitability per order in a settled account, or what other things? Okay, well, that's a good question. There are lots of other things. I was just talking to a customer yesterday, and one of the things that he was quite impressed with was, well, we don't have any FBA here. Let's do this. One of the things he was quite impressed with was the out-of-stocks with sales. So if you recall, I was telling you that we're downloading the active listings and the FBA inventory file. So we're able to determine, for example, items that you have available for sale but are currently out of stock, but you've had sales within the period. So run this. There you go. Every one of these items here, 192 of them, have had sales in the last 30 days but are currently out of stock. The person I was speaking to yesterday was telling me of all the Excel spreadsheets and cutting and pasting of data they had to do back and forth. And one of the great issues they were dealing with is that StoneEdge, this was StoneEdge customer, was indicating that these items were in fact in stock when in reality they were out of stock. And the reason being is because StoneEdge is not grabbing the current quantity on hand from Amazon. So when you're working with StoneEdge, you're working with whatever StoneEdge says, and quite frankly, it can literally be out of sync with Amazon. So one of the advantages here is using the Amazon inventory file, both FBA and merchant, is you know what Amazon says you have in stock. So even though your order management system might tell you it's in stock, Amazon might have it out of stock. So this report using Amazon data can tell you what's out of stock and has had sales, because obviously If you had sales, you should be reordering a product and restocking it. And simply put, if it's out of stock on Amazon, you can't sell it. So something like this would be very useful in finding that. Also, another possibility is that we also have replenishment reports here. So you can actually do product replenishment. You can say, well, let me look at sales at Amazon, and let me grab Supplier. Let's try that. Okay, so simply put, we're looking at products that have sold on Amazon, and we're looking at the replenishment. And so just using the default values in here, we're looking at a recommended order for this item is 1. And we should stock at least 1. So this is an example of how you can do product replenishment. And while we're at that too, you can do a reorder point calculator and even a price floor calculator. So on a price floor calculator, what that allows you to do is to indicate, what your markup should be for an item plus any additional amounts or costs. An example might be I had shown earlier where you might want to have include shipping. So you put $209 for shipping, and then any additional costs you might have. Like say, for example, you want to account for some of your prep fees. Okay. And if you also notice here too, and I'll just grab one of the suppliers here, and we'll just run that and show you how it works. So the cost for this item you have in the database is $14.98, and your price that you're asking is $19.97. If you want a 25% markup and your average fees, now bear in mind, we're getting the average fees from your settlement, okay? So these are average fees for each order. What we're indicating is for a 25% markup, your price floor should be $21.72. In other words, you shouldn't be selling for less than $21.72 if you want to maintain a markup of 25%. So, there are a lot of tools in here to help you figure out the very...
Yeah, this is huge, by the way, because you can't do this easy anywhere else. And, being able to do this can really make a difference to your bottom line. Can you also show them, like, the orders and how they can look at the order nice and cleanly with all the detail at the bottom, including if
Sure.
you come out of multiple warehouses?
Well, we don't have FBA here, so I can't show you the multiple warehouses. But, I mean, if there was, let's see, let's take last 7 days, last 3 days. And we'll put this over here. All right, so this is a list of orders for the last couple of days. And as you can see, we're including, all the sales and revenue information. Here's your cost of goods. That comes in from your product file. So if you have, your SKUs in here and you have your cost, and we calculate that. If there's any shipping, this is where your ship file comes in handy. If you import that in, we'll know what ship cost you paid. And then, of course, these are the fees charged to each order, and then this is your gross margin and gross margin percent. Now, if it costs you nothing to ship, then this would be accurate. If you did pay something to ship, well, then you need to get that in here so that we can calculate it correctly. And to answer your question here are the details for the order. So you can look at who it was sold to, and you can look at whatever products were sold. And if there's a warehouse, and typically that would only be FBA. So you're looking at the item ID, the SKU, the ASIN, the product, and the sales information. What we also provide you here are the transactions if it's settled. So you can actually come over here and look at the settlement information and see this item hasn't been settled. One of the advantages that we use here, and the reason why this particular tool is good, is that when an order comes in, you don't necessarily have the actual fees. The actual fees don't really show up until you have the settlement. But what we do is when we import is that we pre-calculate the estimated fees. So if you don't see a date in the settlement ID here, then you know that this is an estimated fee. If there were a date, and we should be able to find one, let's try one here. I'm just doing this because I know this one on the 25th has. Here's some orders. There you go. So now these have been settled. So that means that these fees here are actual. So the idea here is that we know that there's a time lag between the time the order comes in to the time you get the actual fees. So we pre-calculate that to make these margins as close as we can, so you get an idea of what your profitability might be. So when the settlements do come in here and the orders do get settled, then those become your actual fees. So if you recall, the price floor calculator, we were using the average fees to be able to estimate what the fee is for that particular item that you're selling. And that's how we do this. A combination of actual fees and estimated fees gives you a pretty good idea of what the fee is going to be when you sell that particular item. Now, for those of you who may or may not know, you can actually come out here. Let's see. Here, Amazon gives you a fee preview right there. So you can actually have a fee preview, and you can put that into your product side. And so if you sell this item for that price, that's what the fee should be. So basically, if it's merchant, it's roughly 15%. I'll be honest with you, when you're dealing with FBA, it's a lot higher. I would say at least 20%. And when you import the orders on the data feeds, for example, you can set that estimated fee percent. We got set to 20 for FBA, and for orders set to 15%. But you can change it to any number you want. And that's true with the ASC integrator. Come over here, take a look. So estimated fee percent for orders 15%, FBA 20%. And that's how we calculate what the estimated fee is going to be. All right, Rox, is there anything else you wanted to show?
I don't think so, off the top of my head.
Rox?
Do you want to show them the order reconciliation, how you can group by deposit date and marketplace? One of the things that's also really nice is, it is kind of difficult to see your merchant fulfilled versus your FBA, all the differences with, whatever you're selling and your fees and all that good stuff, especially when they pay out in one deposit, right? That one batch payout, they pay you once a week or once every other week, and it commingles all of that stuff, including all the adjustments that they do at the batch payout level. It's not tied to an order. So this comes in really handy if you pull this in. Now what I do is, of course, I display everything. So up in the display, I add in all the additional fees and all that good stuff up there in your display.
Okay.
Yeah, show them that. So I put in sales fees, others, market, ship fees, and market, yep. And then okay that. And then I'll group them by deposit date, because I want to know, if you're looking at your batch payout, so you're grouping it by deposit date, and then by market, so you can do, or fulfillment rather, so you can see FBA separately from merchant fulfilled, and then I'll do, what is it, description, and then type, or type then description, and then do description. And then this is just like incredibly useful when you look at this. So you can see this is going to match what when you look at that batch payout, this is going to match, right? It's going to show you exactly what you're paid out at the end. It's going to give you all the detail behind the scenes that you can't get any other way, including all these adjustments. If there's an order number, it's an adjustment for the order. But a lot of times there isn't an order number. They're just doing an adjustment for, look, I've seen all kinds of things. There must be 30 different kind of fees or something at this point, and every time I think we've got them all, they'll add a new one, or they'll see a new one. So this gives you really good insight. And then you can expand each of those sections. And you can see just specifically FBA or merchant or everything all together, and just get a great insight on what's going on with your sales and your fees and all that good stuff. Love this.
And I will point out, if you filter by a particular settlement file, your net here should match what's in your settlement feed. But if you're doing, for example, like last month or other non-contiguous time frames, meaning that they span multiple settlement files, this number down here will never match those. Okay, and
right.
An example would be. Go ahead,
yeah, so they can do two things. One is most people, especially people that I've worked with over the last 18, 20 years, we do it based off a deposit date because we're matching out, what's up there with the batch payout and what hit the bank and all that, which is great and works out really well. It's worked well for, since the beginning of Amazon. But at the end of the year, it's not so clean cut, especially if you have a high volume, and it never ends on 12/31. There's always some kind of a float right there. Yeah, a float. And the other thing to know is if you look at the batch payouts, and they say that this runs from the 2nd through the 15th, well, we can tell you guaranteed that when you look at the data behind it, that you also have stuff in there from the 1st, not the 2nd, but the 1st through the 16th. So you're starting out automatically with the 12-hour, 36-hour float window. If you're a merchant that's doing a high volume, that's a lot of dollars. So if you want to see at the end of the year what really should be sitting in transit, then you run this, like you just said, based off of calendar date instead of by deposit date. So it gives you multiple ways to get the numbers that you guys need to see.
Yeah, agreed. So essentially, if you're trying to look at the deposit date and match up all the transactions, this is a perfect way to do it. If you're trying to, look at a particular time period, like a month, a year, or whatever, then, do that based on the calendar. Your results are going to be different because you're using different filters, but they're still valid because those are the results for the filters you're using.
All right.
Okay. Were there any other questions? Let's see our questions tab here and see if we got any more. Okay, there doesn't appear to be any more questions. So at this point, I want to thank everybody for attending our webinar. I appreciate you guys spending your time with us today. As I mentioned earlier, contact info, let's go back. If you want to learn more or have any questions, please feel free to send email to sales@altarian.com. You can visit our forum at communique.vbulletin.net. And for the QuickBooks assistance, feel free to contact Rox at consulting4qb.com. Again, thank you for spending your time with us today. You all have a great day, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.